Hi, this is Denise Dryden, and today we're going to talk about alternatives to parenting. Like, what does that mean? Like, alternatives to the way we parent our kids, alternatives to the way we think. It's going to be about all of that. So get yourself a cup of tea, because we're going to be here for about 10 minutes, maybe 15. And I want to talk to you today about the idea of being a bridge as a parent, as an adult, between the known and the new. Meaning, this is what we know right now in our culture, in our world, that exists for us. And there's all these new ideas coming all the time. And how do we capture those new ideas? And how do we capture how do we capture the essence of what's possible? What wants to happen? So as a parent, how do we approach that in our parenting style? So the reason I picked this topic for today is that, as many of you know, I am a coach. I work with a couple of programs across the country who work with adolescents and teens. And I coach, the majority of my practice right now has been coaching parents who have children, teens, young adults, usually between the ages of 15 and 19, 15 and 22, through the process of re-looking at their child from a different perspective. And it's been difficult, especially in the different industries I've been in, to come in with new ideas and to watch how they're received or what happens to them. So I'll give you an example. When my children were really young, I knew that I had 3 children that learned really differently and loved to learn. They'd been taught to learn. So how do I find a school for them that's not a traditional school, because it doesn't work for some of them? Traditional school worked really well for one, but the other 2 really needed a much more hands-on experiential. And trying to find that in the small mountain town that we lived in of Bend was difficult. So a group of parents and myself, 2 other parents and myself, and 3 teachers created this alternative, well, it was a magnet school, and it went K6 and then it went K8, and it was fabulous because it was non-gradedness, and it took the kid from the skill that they were at instead of the age or the grade that they were supposed to be in. And I didn't know. My husband and I and the kids didn't know that that was going to be a life changer, because that was something that really opened up a different way of learning for our family. So going up against the education system, going up against parents that felt like tag, talented and gifted, was the only track for certain kinds of learners, as opposed to putting really, really talented, smart kids with younger kids and letting them teach it so that they learned it on a much deeper level. These are the kind of things that I found that over the years, phenomenal experiences. The other thing is that I've gone from, this oppositional, defiant, what do you do with a kiddo who doesn't really listen to the rules or do anything that they're supposed to do? And then how do you see them and give them rites of passage and teach the parents the importance of starting to view their young adult as whole and complete and essential for this world? And I know that we believe we do that as parents, but ultimately I think it takes more people, more approaches, and sometimes these really bizarre alternative approaches to make things work. So to be a bridge between the known, what we know about our kids in school. What do we know about them in school and academically? What do we know about them psychologically? Do they go to therapists? Are they struggling? What do we know about the way that their brain works and what promotes success for them in school? Once we get, those are all really known things that we as parents have worked with, maybe IEPs, individual education plans through the school district, tried to get their kiddo to go to a therapist and talk about maybe their anxiety or their depression. And what we notice is that things sort of come to a head in middle school. And in middle school, when there's multiple teachers and lots of peer pressure and everything, the world kind of starts becoming really difficult for our kiddos. So this is the audience that I want to talk to today, is what happens when you have a kiddo that learns a little bit differently, that challenges you as a parent. You've tried all of the known things that you know how to do. You've gone through the what's tested, what's proved, what the school district recommends, what your therapist recommends, and then it's still not working. So the reason that I came up with this is that Deborah, I got this, my clipboard over here. Deborah O'Connor is a horoscope, excuse me, that's terrible. She's an astrologer out of Missoula, and I watched her speak one time, and she's magnificent. So she puts these little blogs out on the full moon and sort of says, so this is what this moon is inviting you to consider or to ponder. And she said, look for alternatives to the ways in which you've been thinking about everything, capitalized everything. That through the end of through the end of August through to October, what we're looking at is how do we really get in touch with where we are, what we know, and how to start releasing everything we know and come at it from a different perspective. So as a parent, what that might look like is, and I'm going to give a couple of family examples, changing the name, everything. What happens when we have a child who from 5 or 6 years old starts to struggle with learning, struggle with reading in particular or math, has a hard time in the classroom, wants to come home a lot, starts to develop some anxiety, and then starts to go into this deep depression of like, I hate school. School doesn't work for me. I don't want to go there. Things aren't connecting. They're not that kid that we thought we were when we were little, or the one that got out and did something. And we have this agenda like, I can hardly wait to be a mom, dad, because this is going to be great. I can get my kid to go to school, and then we can go on bike rides, and then I can coach him in soccer, and we have a really anxious kiddo. And by the time they get to middle school, things aren't working. We realize that we might have to do academic testing. We might have to start looking at a psychologist or a psychiatrist for meds, psychologist for treatment, and we're kind of boosting up our kiddo on all sides. And by the time 15, 14 and a half comes around, there's refusal to go to school. There's social anxiety, and everything's sort of coming in at them. So what we know is that we have a diagnosis, we have an education plan, we have a support system in town that helps them, and we as parents are doing everything we know how to do. So when I say look at changing everything, what if, and this is where the metaphysician in me just sort of likes to come and rattle things around, what if it doesn't have anything to do with anxiety? What if it's empathic or sensitivity to the world around them? And when we approach it from that perspective, which is like, I don't know anything about metaphysical, I don't know how to even start doing that, I don't know what that might look like for me, it's like, become curious. Become really curious. Google highly sensitive people, highly sensitive children. Look at empaths. Look at social anxiety and empathic skills. And you realize that sometimes our kids see so many things. They can hear the pencils moving on the desk behind them. They can hear the clock ticking. They can see what's going on outside the window. They can tell that the teacher is having a really bad year. Maybe there's something going on at home, but they're not quite present. There might be some dynamics between a friend and a couple of friends over at the side that feel exclusionary, and all of a sudden everything becomes really overwhelming. What if we take off the traditional titles, containers, labels, and we move them to the side and we say, how do I come at this from a different perspective? And that's the kind of stuff that just thrills me. Like, let's roll our sleeves up and look at it in a different way. So alternatives to parenting are looking at what we know and then being bold enough and curious enough to say, I wonder why this is happening to me and my family. Why am my little kiddo struggling so much? What is it that I can do to become an advocate on a much more creative, interesting, alternative level? And, if it means being bold and going into metaphysics or going and talking to someone who has a real spiritual sort of watches how energy and systems work, maybe that's another way to look at it. But it does help when you can see how something that's just really one little tiny adjustment, something that's really small, coming at it from what if my child is highly sensitive, and coming in, and then you start to see all of the pieces fall into place from the background history. So this is what I do. I love alternative approaches, and I don't know what's new. I keep trying to look forward and research and find out what are people saying about the children on this earth, and why are they so different than what we know and what we've become used to. And so that's what I do as a coach, is I help you out. We explore together. I give you homework assignments, and we go find out what does it really take to be courageous and look outside of the box. So my name is Denise Dryden, DeniseDrydenCoaching.com online, and you can always find me here on Facebook. And thank you so much for joining me this morning, and let me know if you have any questions. Enjoy your day.